So yeah, you know, I just realized I didn't even publish the last show we talked about this. But did you have any thoughts on the ebook?
I don't. I'm not big into the e-readers, but a good friend of mine on YouTube had stated that he said he was glad that he stuck with ebooks rather than I guess Apple's version is iBooks or something. And I wasn't sure what he meant by that, but I guess after I saw your message about ebooks getting pulled, I don't know what.
It was Sony's.
To me, that's again Apple acting on closing consumer options. It's like sometimes I don't know. It's very hard to read for me. If they make a carrier agnostic phone, okay, they're making options there for consumers, but lately, like even with the Mac App Store, they're going to be changing policies within March, which has to do with content-based providers like magazines and things like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to have any type of subscription thing that on the side. Like once you've captured a consumer and you have like different subscriptions, they all have to be present within the Mac App Store. And then also, content providers like Amazon can no longer just use the Mac App Store to get people to go outside. That everything that they would have to offer as a service or product would then have to also be in the Mac App Store, subject to the 30%. What is it? The 30% off the top that Apple is taking off of every app that's put into the Mac App Store, which I think is just vicious.
I'll tell you exactly what that's going to do. That's going to make everything that in any way, shape, or form winds up on any device, not just Apple, subject to the inflated costs associated with the 30% fee.
Yeah, it's going to raise the price. I don't know why Apple's doing that. It's crazy to me.
And you know, that's not... I don't know where you stand on this, Phil, but if I didn't know that was going to be their official policy change in March. If that's their official policy change in March, you know what that just means? It screws the end user because the price rises, and it does another thing which doesn't help Apple, in that the profit margin just went up on every other platform. Because you're going to raise the price everywhere, but on the other platforms where you don't have to pay the 30%, you get an extra 30% pure profit through your own store.
So, I don't know. Hey, they could change it. Let's put it this way. Apple, and I've been with them quite a long time as a developer, they do something. We kick and scream, and then they change it. Then we kick and scream some more, and they change it some more.
Well, you think this is going to become like
oh, yeah.
You think this is going to become like iAds, where they'll back off and go, okay, we'll allow other metrics. Okay, we'll allow. Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, you think it's going to be like that?
Yeah, you just have to kick and scream enough. I mean, I remember the way that Apple does it though is they got to look good. See, if we go from like the first iPhone, it's genius for every application to go just to Safari. No, Steve Jobs, that sucks. No, it's the right thing to do. It's the Apple thing to do. You know, we know better than you. You know, a few months later,
10 billion applications of profit later.
You know, it's like now we also want to be able to run these type of tools. No. You know, that's not the Apple way. You know, a few months later, boom. Yes, we have decided to embrace that, and we've given it the magic fairy dust flavor to make us look good, when in reality we're just acquiescing to everybody bitching and screaming.
Well, you bring up an interesting point. We've been talking about iOS, but I've said this. I don't know why you were gone. You've been paying attention to any of my videos, but my honest thought with Lion, ignoring all the other Lion theories we have, paying attention. My honest thought is Lion is the beginning of OS X starting to turn into an iOS-like device, where Apple wants the iOS level of control on desktop OS X.
Let's put it this way. I've been doing a lot of tweets on. There's a lot of rumors because of a project that's been going on, that's being completed, that was started in the 80s. to help out a Motorola chip, which is RISC-based. And this has just fueled a bunch of theories about Apple going back to RISC processors, which I think is a stretch. It's maybe something long-term. But definitely, I definitely see Apple trying to unify and tie in all of the iPhone apps as being able to run on OS X and then OS X apps, so long as hardware is supportive of it, maybe within different levels, to run on their mobile devices. And so you have a one-stop shop.
And I don't have a problem with that. That's part of why Desktop Linux is trying to emulate Android to make those two worlds play nice to each other. That in and of itself I don't have a problem with. What I have a problem with is the locking it down.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen, right? But look, we'll kick and scream enough, and like I said, usually, Apple gives. I wouldn't even be surprised in the future if we see Flash reintroduced to Apple, and it's going to be some presentation that Jobs comes up on the stage, or maybe not. I don't know. I hope he recovers from whatever illness that he has now.
We don't know if Steve Jobs is fixing to start parting ways for Apple, or we don't know what's going on there.
Well, I wish him all the best of luck. I hope he has a speedy recovery. But let's say that he recovers, he comes back, and he's on stage and says, "Oh yes, through new agreements with Adobe and this wonderful thing," and all of a sudden Flash comes back. It's going to have the Apple spin on it. It's like, how do you go from the G5 being Zeus of all odds and the best computer, and within 8 months, all of a sudden Intel is kick-ass? I don't know how you do that.
I don't know where Phil stands on this, but at some point when Apple decides to bring Flash to iOS, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be hand in hand with Apple deciding to embrace dual-core CPUs. They're gonna act like they invented dual-core CPUs, and they're gonna act like, well, Flash stucks on a single core.
They're going to be late to the game. HP WebOS, man, kicking ass. It's already ready to go. So they're going to have dual core on theirs already. So.
Phil, do you have anything to say on that, or?
I think the thing is that obviously I think Apple tried to push things as far as they can, where they can get what they want out of it. But if they end up realising that they've run it to the end of their rope, where people ain't going to to carry on that way, and they're going to look for alternatives, I think then we probably will see changes, and like Bit says, probably Flash will shut up if Apple end up being pushed that far.
Well, the unfortunate truth is HTML5 is not ready to replace Flash yet. The devices...
Let me say something to that, though. I don't think either one's going to replace either one. I think both are going to coexist. I don't think Flash is going away anytime soon. And the reason why I've made tons of videos on it, and my opinion is I support Apple because it's their right to say whatever they want and control whatever they want. But don't make up that letter that Steve Jobs had for all those BS reasons that were most of the time very hypocritical. And even on iTunes and many other applications, we've called that out on that letter. If you want to say, hey, we're not ready, we've got other things and we're going to look at it later to put on our platform, that would have been more respectful than writing this letter that Jobs had. And I think it got personal between Adobe and Apple on that level, and I think that, hopefully they can make amends to it.
It's always personal.
Too ubiquitous just to say, screw it. I mean, if it were something that were a smaller technology and not as widely used, okay, maybe. But Flash is everywhere. And it's got a huge developer community behind it, and I just don't see the option of saying, no, we're going to ignore Flash when it's just that large. And it behooves Apple to come up and use their Apple magic to say, you know what? All right.
Well, okay.
We're going to give consumer the option while not damaging our ecosystem. Let's find a way of doing that. And, put the Apple spin on it and say, yeah, this is the way. Like, they came out and saying, yes, we're doing multitasking so well. Hell no. I think that multitasking within iOS is a joke compared to WebOS. But, it's got to have the Apple spin, to satisfy the masses. But you just can't ignore something as ubiquitous as Flash. And it's not about technology versus technology. It's about giving us consumers the option.
Well, and like you're saying, there's a significant investment in Flash. Here's why I see HTML ultimately largely replacing Flash. Now, are we still going to be doing video via? Are we still going to be doing video via Flash? Oh, hell yes. But I'll give you an example. Some of the prettiest websites you will ever come across are pure Flash sites.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
but the problem with that is not one thing in that site, in any way, shape, or form, is indexable by any of the search engines.
I know.
If you have the ability and the average system of the end user is powerful enough to do that Flash-like stuff using JavaScript, which is indexable. It's actual text, it's actual code that the search engine can crawl through and find all the words and everything. The internet will snap that up in a heartbeat. The holdup on that right now isn't that the technology can't do it. HTML5 is more ready to do it. It takes a good chunk of processing power on the end user system to run all that JavaScript as smooth and elegant as that Flash. That just isn't there yet, especially on these mobile devices.
I love how you brought that up. I used to be well, I'm still not a Flash fan. But yeah, let me just say that right now. I don't like Flash. I hate Flash sites, number one. And when I started off early on and I would do web development, this is way back when Microsoft thought ActiveX's were the second coming.
Oh, Lord.
You remember? Yeah, I go way back. You know, and so yeah, Microsoft would give out. I remember all this stuff for, hey, use an ActiveX and this is this, you know. And I hated Flash, and I used to do that. I would use script and JavaScript and everything within the document object model, and then finally the cascading style sheets would come on to show I can make something as interactive, functional, and beautiful as something that Flash would provide. But then Flash got creative, and they started having backends, and then it started helping Flash performance versus what scripting could produce and all that. So it started to become a moot point. But I did everything in the early days to show, hey, why don't you become? I used to say, why don't you be a real coder?
Well, no, and that is where a lot of the things for the HTML5 standard evolved from people who were doing stuff like you back in about a decade ago. It's like, no, I can do it this way, and then it can actually be found. God, a lot's happened since then. We've actually added a whole nother search engine that now dominates. It's like, what was it? We all thought, no, we don't need it. Not another search engine. Oh man, not another one. It's like,
I remember the days when Hotspot was cool. And Lycos.
Go get it, boy. Go. Okay, getting back to Apple. I think we're all pretty much agreed that Apple's not making any announcements till next month at this point. Sure. Partly because Jobs is out, and if they were going to do it, they'd have done it already. So it's not happening this month. It's happening beginning of March, or very end of February. My guess is that they'll be announcing, it'll either be an iPhone thing or an iPad announcement, and then there'll be another one in another 45 days. Or 2 weeks, who knows. I've covered all the bases there, I think. On that note, do you think whenever Apple makes that announcement that they will be addressing the spider screen issues of the MacBook Pros?
I never even heard of that, and I had to Google that when I saw it on as part of the show, and I don't know yet. I don't have an opinion. I really didn't even know that was a problem. So, what is it, like scratches on the screen? A lot of scratches showing up easy, or what? No,
we're talking about the fact that the MacBook Pros have 2 graphics cards, and therefore the drivers can't do the smart swapping right. So if you start using one graphics card and the smart swapping tries to switch to the other one, everything gets all pixelated and the screen doesn't work right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they've had a recall before with the iMacs, with the ATI drivers, and that's happened I think twice, and they do a swap. And okay, what it comes down to is this defective hardware, or is it what I think it is, which is a true driver problem, and that
It's the fact that the Intel CPUs they're using have a graphics card too, and they're using a shared memory graphics card in conjunction with that graphics card, and they're doing smart switching between the two. And what happens to any computer, if you're doing processing using one graphics card and then try and switch away from it to the other one, nothing works. You reboot the machine and this has been a problem on any system that has this configuration, so I'm not surprised Apple's having a problem with it. I am surprised that it's not as pronounced known. I think the general reaction out of most users is it must be something I'm doing. But if you go to apple.com, there's several threads on that. So it's, I think the real reason it doesn't get going is because it doesn't have a name, and it's one of those things, getting it to do it on cue is problematic at best. So unlike antenna, where anybody could get it to do it on cue, it's like there's a handful of documentations of it, but most of them are just text. And text doesn't quite sell like a picture. So I hope Apple gets this fixed out, because if they're going to keep...
Well, I mean, if it does become pervasive enough that enough people report it, they've had, times where iMacs go down, and I remember the PowerPC, there was G5s, the cools had problems, and they just take it in and they'll do a swap or something. That's
Well, no, but say that this is more a software problem than a hardware problem.
Well, they have to fix the drive. They can do it on free.
Okay, you say that again? You just broke up.
If they have to do it like within the Genius bar or whatever that support thing is, they'll do it for free of charge, even if it's out of warranty or something like that. They do things like that. They'll take it in and swap it out, do whatever, or fix it. If it's a driver problem, they'll just take it in the bag and do what needs fixing and give it back to you. So, I mean, if it's that big of a prize thing, that's how they've handled other issues before. So.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully they figure out how to solve